Right, we are out for our very first day's filming with the Matrix cameras of 2022 and it is flipping freezing. So we thought, what a better time to come out and do a little bit of maggot feeder fishing, because for me it's definitely a winter method that comes out this time of year, that it just allows you to fish maggots at distance in a way that you can't do with any other methods. A lot more accurate than a waggler, and it's just for me a phenomenal way of catching fish during the winter months when they tend to not want to be on the pole line. So that is what today's going to be all about. What I'm going to have a run through is pretty much all the little tips and tricks that I employ when it comes to these lovely little places like Hall, where we're at today, where a maggot feeder at short range can be a phenomenal tactic. So we're going to whiz over to the box and I'm going to show you lots of different ways how to set it up. So before I get all technical on you and go through the different ways of setting things up and the different sort of types of maggot feeder, if anything, first I've got to have a little babble about why I choose it, because it's definitely an underused method. It's not a method you see a lot. It seems to be quite seasonal, very much a cold water, winter type thing. And I think that's just because of the way the fish behave on commercials. I mean, we're here today, I said, we're at Hall, everywhere's gone clear, and what you tend to find is all the fish want to hang back. Yeah, they're very reluctant to have that pole above their heads, but at the same time they're eating very little amount of bait. So it's pointless throwing method feeders, pellet feeders, anything with a volume of pellets, ground bait, whatever. It's just too much. I mean, it's rock bottom. We're filming this middle of January. It does not get any colder than this now. It's as bad as it gets. And literally feeding that 5, 10, 15 maggots as accurate as I possibly can, which a maggot feeder allows me to do at a range of, or at a past the pole distance range. I mean, it's the perfect way of fishing for these fish that just simply don't want to come anywhere near us and are frightened to death. They just want to hang out there against the cover and they just want to be happy. They want to be like me in the winter, just cozied up against the couch, not moving. But anyway, that's basically the reasons for it. So it's something I'd perfectly be happy to do. To come to a venue like this today, it'd definitely for me be a #1 tactic to fish at range with maggots where no one else is doing and catch them fish earlier, if anything else, before all the anglers do. So with the babbling done, first I've got to talk about the two ways of setting it up, because for me there's definitely, as with every method, you've got to think about it a little bit. It's not just a case of wanging a feeder on, that'll do. It can be improved upon and done in the best way. And one of the little things a maggot feeder has compared to pretty much all other feeders, if I'm thinking about it, is the versatility in which you can use it, because they'll feed quite differently depending what mood they're in, and you need to have the right setup to cover what fish you're catching and what mood they're in that it's a lovely feed that you can either fish in a very tight trap with a little hook length, almost method feeder sort of style, which I'm going to talk about second, or you can fish it like quite nicely through the water. I mean, attracting fish really quickly, having a quick way of fishing, and that's by setting up in the way I have. So I'm going to run through the two different setups and show you exactly what we're doing. So we're not going to babble off too much about rods and reels and all that, because we don't need to know that, other than we want something nice and soft. Yeah, I don't want a pokey rod. I want a nice little soft bomb rod that allows me to fish light hook lengths. You know what I mean? It's winter. I want to fish 012, 014, something nice and light. So I want a nice little soft rod that doesn't mess about. But the setup is the main bit, I suppose. So I've got this one set up. Mainline's quite light. I've got 4-pound mainline on this. Just again, a bit of finesse. Yeah, I'm only going to be chucking really light maggot feeders. In today's case, there's no features. There's nothing. I've got a nice neat island that's got no snags, so I don't have to worry about losing any fish in any obstacles. So 4-pound line, while it might not be the most durable for chucking a feeder, it's just sexier for when it's rock bottom. I mean, I see a few more indications. It's just nice. Just makes fishing nicer. So that's what I got that on. I've got 4-pound line, and in this case, I've got the running feeder, so I've got the fixed swivel stems in them, so I can fish it like a traditional cage feeder sort of thing. So he's just fixed to the line, free running to keep in line with fishery rules, and he's literally fixed with just a float stop bead, aren't they? With a twizzled loop, little hook length on the end. And in today's case, I've got 012 hook length to an 18 MXC1 I've got on that one. So it's still got a bit of poke to it. But the biggest thing about this rig is all to do with the hook length. In that with this one, this is me slow falling nice one, the rig that I want to use when I'm getting quick bites, that you find with a maggot feeder, 9 times out of 10, I'd say your bite time's less than a minute. For whatever reason, it's probably bait coming out your feeder. It's maggots in general in it. They're like, when you're loose feeding maggots, your bites happen fast. This is the rig for doing that. So I've got a nice slow sort of fall. In that case, I've got a 2-foot hook length on. So it's going to give me a fairly natural, nice fall down. And my bait's going to be on a bigger area. I'm going to be casting a lot more regular, because with this rig, I'm expecting to get bites really, really, really quickly. And it's probably the rig I'll start on as well. This is me finding out what's going on. Best of both sort of thing. But what you have got with this is that big, massive length of line. So I do worry myself about when it is flat on the deck and it's been there for too long. I worry that maybe I'm not seeing them bites. Maybe the fish have got too much time to reject your bait. Just not quite right for different situations, which is what my other rig is ready for. So we're going to have a quick little look at him as well. Let me look after him. And get the second one. So I've not babbled about size of feeders or anything like that yet, because that's pretty much down to the type of day in it. I mean, the size of feeder that you put on is obviously dictated by how much bait you want to feed, how far you've got to cast. There's pointless me telling you exactly which one to use, because all situations are going to be different. But in today's case, we've both got mini ones on. I mean, both the rigs have got the mini feeders for tiny, tiny amounts of bait. I want to feed 10 or 15 maggots. But anyway, second rig, a little bit different to the first. You say it's pretty much, it's like method feeder styling. That's the way I'd like to look at it, in setting me trap sort of feeder. In that completely different to any other sort of cagey type feeder that you can set up. In that I've got a lovely little inliner one on there. I've got much heavier line on that one. I've got 6 pound on that one, just for the durability. Yeah, because it's technically a fixed feeder for while it's going out there. It's going to take a bit more abuse, going to bounce about a little bit more than the nice slidey feeder. It just looks after your rig a little bit more. So in that case, I've got 6 pound line, and that's got the inline stem on it. So that one can move all over the place, but I can jam the bead up it, create a nice bolt rig effect, but still being fish safe, which is what it's all about. And yeah, it's as simple as it can possibly be with this one. Slightly heavier line. On that one, I've got 0.14.5 hook length, just because the way it's set up, I can't afford to fish 0.12. It's just a little bit too delicate. Well, I'd like to, just too delicate, and there's a good chance of snapping the hook length because you've got that big lump of weight with the feeder so close to your hook length. So I can't afford to fish too light on that, but with a 16 hook. So as you can imagine, this rig is all about the bolt effect. So if I'm not getting any bites when I first chucked in, if no bites are coming to the fall of the bait immediately, and I'm waiting probably 2 minutes in excess for a bite, excuse me, once my bait's gone in, then I definitely feel the properties of this rig are so much more beneficial than the other rig, because I see my bite so much quicker. I mean, obviously in this case, the fish has got there, I've got a 6-inch hook length on, so that fish can technically move 6 inches before it hooks itself, and I see my bite a lot quicker, which for the rock bottom days when I may only get 4 or 5 fish take that bait, when it really, really is hard, the last thing I want them to do is to take my bait, spit it out, and I come back with a smashed hook length or a smashed hook. Smashed maggot rather. With this one, I know that if one takes it, I'm catching it. So it's me, it's me more positive rig when it's really, really good and they're on the bottom, but also me scratching rig. And say for every day, not just on the day it'll have a place, definitely it's worth having both rigs set up. And you can dick about, depending what them fish are doing, you can be the most efficient that you possibly can, depending what's in your peg and how they're feeding, which hopefully in the little fishing bit we're going to do next, we'll be able to demonstrate. So there's not really a lot more to say about that. So in this case, we've got the fixed one. Obviously with this feeder as well, if I wanted to, I could swap to an elasticated stem, which, I don't know, it's just not something I do anymore. It's quite a personal thing, probably due to fishery rules. I mean, many fisheries don't allow elasticated or fixed. They insist that you have a free running feeder in that case. But if it's your personal choice or the rules allow at a fishery, then elastic would be fine for me. But I don't know, I've always been a fan for method feeders, pellet feeders, whatever. I'd rather use an inline one than elasticated, but that's for everyone else to decide. So with that covered, I think it's time to catch a couple of fish. Right, sorry to interrupt the video, but we thought, as we are feeling very, very, very generous today, what we do is give away a bit of a bundle of the maggot feeders that we are using in this exact video. So all you have to do for a chance to win is comment down below on the pattern of hook that I've said I'm using during the video that you are watching at this moment in time. And the winner will be chosen at random. So best of luck. I'll let you carry on now to the fish catching fun. So the good bit, get to catch a few fish. And with goggles on, ready to go, I'm going to start off on the, what I call it, the slow falling free running rig, the standard fixed feeder that's on the swivel that's running on my line. Because I want to see what they're doing. I mean, the lake that we're fishing in, it's full of eyed, loads of F1s and a few carp, but it's the eyed and F1s that are most likely to catch. And they are the most likely fish that we're to catch with the massively varied bait tray that we've got, in that we've got literally a ton of maggots, which, funnily enough, with a maggot feeder, that's what we're going to use. So I'm going to impale a couple on that. I've got an 18 on that, not too big a hook. I would like a bigger hook, but again, with it being really hard, I'm going to start with an 18, see where it goes. And I'm going to start today on the slow falling one that goes down. Nice, let's get that out of there. So dead simple. Just because you've got a feeder on, doesn't mean you've got to fill it up. So all I'm going to put in, I'm going to get rid of the dust. I don't want too much dust. I'm just going to put sort of 10 in. So I don't want much bait in that at all, because I want to replicate exactly what I do on the pole. So just by whacking 10 bits of bait in, that'll keep it nice. And a little sneaky tip as well I want to give you is that with a maggot feeder, to stop them coming out, give it a quick dunk. Yeah, and it adds a little tiny bit of weight, but also stops your bait coming out too much prematurely. So I'm going to chuck it that way. That's what we've got some stones over that way, and I'm going to pick a spot and I'm going to feed the spot. Yeah, there's nowhere that's right or wrong to chuck it. I could literally throw this anywhere in my peg because of the way the feeder is. But to begin with, I do want to build the spot. So I'm going to clip up in that little area there towards these stones that we've got and have fairly regular casts, because that's a feeder that I've got on. The last thing I'm expecting today, with it being really clear, really cold, those fish probably aren't going to be on the bottom. And in this case, there's a lot of fish to be caught. Excuse me, there's lots and lots of bites, or potentially lots of bites, lots of fish that are going to eat maggots. So I don't want the other type of feeder yet, where I'm just sitting for 2 or 3 F1s or 2 or 3 carp. Yeah, I'm expecting to catch quite a few fish, because there are many fish in here. So what I'm going to do is have really quick casts. I'm just going to have sort of 2 to 3 minute casts at the very most. Because like I said, after that, really after 2 minutes, maybe after a minute if I'm completely honest, this style of feeder could be improved upon by swapping to the other feeder, because they're not following that bait down. Obviously, once that bait goes in, my feeder hits the water, a couple of maggots probably come out of it. They sink within a minute or 2. My hook length sinks within seconds. I mean, within 10 seconds, that hook length's on the deck fishing. So if they're not following that bait down, then what's the point? I mean, I'm worried about missing any of them bites that I could be getting, so I need to swap to the other one. But we'll give this the benefit of the doubt first. So I'm going to have a quick 5 or 6 casts with this, probably over 15-20 minutes, 2 or 3 minutes a cast. Get a little bit of bait in there, so I'm only chucking 5 or 6 maggots in each time, so I'm not filling the feeder, putting 30 in every go. I'm doing exactly what I'd try and do if I were fishing a pole at that distance, but obviously I can't do because it's out of range, and I've not got to worry about that big wobbly pole over the fish's heads. So I'll give this another 30 seconds, and then I'm going to chuck it again. So you find that with commercially take bites and that on a maggot feeder as well, it's not like skimmery fishing on naturals or anything like that, that you've got to really focus and see what's going on. All my bites are going to be, yes, it's on, I'm going to lose my rod. Everything's quite obvious with this. So I've not got to focus too much on that tip, although I do want to pay attention, just if I'm getting any liners, the same as you would if you're ledgering with a straight piece of corn or whatever else. I want to find little areas where I think the fish are going to be, because no matter how good this venue is, you still have to go to the fish or you're not going to catch anything. But for now, we're going to have a little go over these stones, see if we can get a handy one. And if not, it's a lovely method that I'm not putting a big volume of bait anywhere in the peg. I can literally take my clip off, chuck it somewhere else, and it's instant fishing again. I mean, them 10 maggots, I'm just as likely to catch a fish first cast as I am after 20 casts in a peg. So I'm perfectly happy. Here we go. I'm perfectly happy to chuck it all over my peg. So that was right on limit then. But being first cast, I'll give it a chance, but that was probably 3 minutes into the cast. And he's finally gone round, and he's nothing big. He feels like an id. Do like an id. Do like an id. It's a lovely little girly soft rod as well, because we've got such a light hook length on, and we're likely to hook some carp and some F1s. I want something really soft and bouncy that prevents me from losing these things. So maybe even more so on the other rig. But let's nab this one. What is he? Is he an id? He's an id, Dad. He's got an id. A fighting id. But I don't think there can possibly be a more suitable fish for catching on a maggot feeder in the winter months. I mean, that these can be notoriously finicky as well, both with bites and with coming anywhere near the pole. So for them, they're what we're going to hopefully catch a load of today. And as well, they're the type of fish, if I was catching carp and F1s, again, I'd probably expect to be on the other rig, that I would be sitting there being nice and patient waiting for a bite. Whereas with them being in my peg, maybe an odd chub as well, then I'd be really, really expecting to catch a few fish quickly once they start associating that feeder going in and they recognise that bait falling. I reckon there's a good chance we might start getting some bites very, very quickly on the drop, which this rig will allow to happen. Whereas the other rig, I'd miss out on a percentage through the water. It's exactly the same thinking as the stuff I babble about all the time when I'm pole fishing. That if I was to fish maggots on the pole, I'm not going to put many in, put 10 in there again. Ooh, if I were to put maggots on the pole, I'd do exactly the same thing. I'd have a positive rig for when they arrive later on, when they're on the bottom. And to begin with, let's give that a dunk, I'd have a lovely delicate rig. Yeah, what am I in line with that? I'd have a lovely delicate rig that catches them through the water early on in the session. I mean, it's no different to the way you're fishing a feeder. You can replicate exactly the same sort of thing. There's one top in there then. That'll be the next place I cast if I stop getting bites. But yeah, I can replicate exactly that with the two rigs, swapping between the two depending what's in my peg, and ultimately make the most of my peg, because I'm not wasting time fishing the wrong rigs, not seeing bites. That'll be another thing I pay attention to now, is after that 3 minutes, I'm going to check my bait every time it comes in. And as soon as I come back with like a smash maggot where I've not caught a fish, then I'm going straight in with the other rig, because it means that they're not moving far from my feeder, they're keeping nice and accurate because that bait's nice and tight on bottom, and they're not hooking themselves. But we'll suck it and see. So same as everything else, it's reading the signs that you're seeing and swapping about accordingly just to put that extra few fish in the net. But for now, I'm going to carry on with this, build that peg up a little bit and see how it goes. So we've had a couple of hours fishing and it's been right good, to be fair. Like really, really loads of bites, but it's been a really clear pattern of what the best thing been to do on the day. So the fish have 100% been eyed, but yet we haven't even hooked another fish. There've been no carp, no F1s. I think they're about 20 miles that way, down the other end of the lake where we've scared them off to. And because of the species that we've been catching, the first rig, my nice long hook length rig, has been the one. I mean, I must have had half a dozen bites today. As my feeders hit, as I'm sinking my line, they've been pulling it out my hand. There's been plenty of fish to be caught, plenty of fish responding to the feeder as it's going in. At first, I had to have 2 lines and skip about, but now it's come that just 1 line's plenty. I can flog that line, I can get loads of bites off it, or with the slow falling, longer hook length. But just to see what's going on, to see if there's another option of catching fish, I've had to have 20 minutes on a shorter hook length, which it just demonstrates that that type of rig, if you like, is wrong for certain species or depending how they're feeding. Because today, by far, the other rig is far outscoring this one. In that this isn't a load of rubbish. It's not, I'm not catching fish, but I'm probably catching a third of the amount of fish that I was catching with that slow fall rig, because I'm missing out on all them fish that are intercepting the bait as it goes down, because, well, it doesn't. It sinks in about 2.5 seconds, this hook length, once my feeder's settled. But the one thing I will notice that I've found that with this hook length, or with this setup, is that I'm hooking the fish far better. So when I do catch a fish on this, it takes a lot longer, I'm actually probably going every other cast without catching a fish, but they're all impaled right in the middle of the bottom lip, like method feeder sort of styly, so there's much less chance of losing them. So definitely something to think about. But other than that, it's been a right enjoyable method. And I can mess about with the 2 rigs just to see what's best. And so hopefully by showing you both options, it gives you a bit more versatility when fishing a maggot feeder. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to launch this one out, catch one more, and then this is getting a little bit chilly, so I think it's time to get back in the vans and get ourselves home. But hopefully you enjoyed that one, and we'll see you all very, very soon.